Yeah, 2 minutes. Right, we'll just wait for people to come on. If anybody can see us, if you'd like to say something in the comment section, just so we know we've got an audience and that you can hear me. We're a little bit early, so I know sometimes with YouTube live channels, they won't start dead on 3 o'clock, so we will wait and make sure that we've got some people, so we don't want to cut people off. So yeah, they can join whenever they like. So now you tell me. Lovely. Okay, so we're now. I can now be heard. They can't see me just yet, and that's quite deliberate. We're just going to wait. Oh, lovely, and they can hear me loud and clear as well. So the microphone is and the technology is obviously working. So brilliant. And we're now going to go to your book cover. Just let that up for a few seconds so people know that they come to the right YouTube screen. I want them to end up on the Romantic Novels Association live stream. Although maybe they might like to read it. So well, perhaps we'll get that to later, RJ. Right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to Wiltshire Libraries Book Zone. My name is John Garland, and I work at Warminster Library. So for those of you who come to Warminster, you might recognise me. So we're just waiting to make sure that people can hear us clearly. It sounds like they can hear us, and it sounds like they can see me as well. So I'm thrilled skinny to be able to say that I've got the brilliant fantasy author RJ Barker with me this afternoon. I'm really pleased. For those of you who don't know, he's the author of the Wounded Kingdom series and the brand new Tide Child trilogy. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to bring him into the conversation and I'm going to let him read you from his latest book, The Bone Chips, which is his latest novel. And then after we've had a bit of that, then we'll chat to RJ and ask him some questions. But you'll be far more interested in him than you are in me because he's the really lively one. So let's bring RJ in now and say hello. Hello, RJ, can you hear me? Well, if there's anyone from Newcastle on the YouTube channel, let us know in the comments. But yeah, in the meantime, when all this fun and games is over, you will be very welcome to come to Wiltshire Libraries and come meet us in person.
Yeah, I like to get about. I like trains. I like to sit on trains, and well, I tell my editor I always work, but I actually daydream. I'm hoping she didn't watch.
Is your publicist Nazia watching?
I doubt it. She has enough of me during the day, so I can't unless she's been told it. Just say hello, Nazia. There's two of the most beautiful Nazia, even though she is quite terrifying.
Sorry for Nazia. Sometimes some of the japes you get up to. So, but anyway, enough of that, RJ. Everyone's here to see you and hear you. So if you'd like to go ahead and read from your book.
The Books, which is the first book of the Tide Child trilogy. And I'm going to come in partway through the first chapter, where we've met Joran Twine. Sort of, he's a captain of a punishment ship, basically, but he's currently beached because he doesn't want to be captain of a punishment. Suddenly, somebody has come up and challenged him for his position, which is his hat, which is his kind of signal, and that's what. So I'm going to come in partway through to get up, and I'll probably digress as I'm reading because I tend to. But anyway, I'm used to standing up and walking backwards, and it's really difficult. So I'm just talking a lot instead. Obviously, shop. She idled away from the slanted bothy he had slept in, away from the small and stinking abandoned dock, and he followed. No one was around. He'd chosen this place for its relative solitude, amazed at how easily that could be found. Each tended to flock together to find each other, and of course they shunned such hag-haunted places. Still slept. Along striding, looking for a place, and him following like a lost Kauai. When another flightless bird flocked though of course only the surety of the death he towards to Jewel mentioned that. The feet, high boots, as if searching for something that would ear up and bite her. It would remind himself as a child, checking if Joel were playing alone, it would come. He recognised her. He knew her. Not socially, not through any action he had fought, as he had fought none. But he knew her cheekbones, the weathered skin, the black patterns drawn around her eyes, and the scintillating golds. As someone of note, he recognised her. Had seen her walking before children, one from raids on the go, children to be made ready for the 13 burned priests' thirsty blades, children to be sent to the hag or to ride the bones of a ship as corpse lights, merry colours that told of a ship's hell. On the prow of her ship, Arachesian dread, named for the sea dragons that provided the bones for the ships and had once been them, named for the sea dragons that no longer came, named for the sea dragons that were sinking into myth the way a body would eventually sink. Oh, that ship. He'd seen that too. Last of the grim dread, 18 bright corpse lights dancing above him. A huge, long, as long as a two-ribber, crowned his prow, blank eye holes staring out, his beak covered in metal to use as galabos on each side of the main deck, below in the underdeck. A crew of over 400 that polished and shone, so he was blinding white against the sea. He'd seen her training her crew, and he'd seen her fight. Someone mentioned the circumstances of her birth. It was not a long fight. And when asked for mercy, well, she showed none, and he did not think it was in her, for she was 100, cruel, and hard. What life? With the god of the air fleeing. He was about to fight Maes Gilbrin. Lucky Maes, the most decorated, the bravest, the fiercest shipwright. And he was going to die. But why would Lucky Maes want it for death? He could not stop his mind working. She could have any command she wanted. It would be if... And that was unthinkable, impossible. Maes Gilbrin condemned to the black ships, condemned to die. Soon as see an island get up and walk and have that happen. Had she been sent to kill him? Maybe continued living was an insult. Maybe they'd become bored with waiting. Name. She croaked the words like something hungry for carrion. He tried to speak, found his mouth dry and not, though he had walked with it as a companion for 6 months at middle. He swallowed, licked his lips. At my she said, not all any reports of action. Never black shed. What could it mean? Annoyance, boredom, and she said, taking a practice swing with a heavy blade, contemptuous of him, barely even watching him. How does a fisher get condemned to a ship of the dead? Never mind become a shipwife. Another practiced slash at the innocent air before her. I killed a man. She stared at him. In combat, again, forcing a hard ball of cold stone fear down his neck. See, it can fight. A blade came up to ready. Lines. Something was inscribed on it. No cheap slag iron curtain now like his own. He was drunk, said Joran. Okay. Well, Joran Twiner, she said. I'm neither, despite my name. Her eyes old. Let's go. Out of the first
Find out.
just like,
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. You've got a real rhythm to the way you speak, and I was going to save it as a question for later, but I'm going to ask it now. How much of your previous career as a musician do you think comes over into your reading and your writing?
I don't know if actually as a musician because it wasn't a career. It was very much a failed career. I was a terrible musician. I loved doing it, but I was appalling. The fact I had a massive head and couldn't stay in time. I think the rhythm and flow of the way I write is probably more from an early love of poetry that my mum instilled in me, and maybe from lyrics in songs, because that's how I attach to a song. It's always the voice. And the I'm the opposite way around.
So a career in literature beckoned. So, but I know you've spoken about it in previous interviews. You said for the Assassins, for the Wounded Kingdom series, that the martial arts that you developed was very much kind of inspired by sort of musical passages and pieces for the steps and the moves that Garland does.
It was a mixture of two things. It was a mixture of dance, which I find interesting, and is another thing I'm utterly incapable of. I can't even get drunk and dance on a dance floor because it's something I'm so bad at. There can be no joy there for me, just embarrassment. I was tremendously jealous on the dance floor, and I love to watch people dance. And
okay.
I think talking dance, you're not really doing it. And that the way the fights are set out is he's not consciously thinking of it. You're getting this set of moves while he's going through them, and it's tremendously quick in real life, but you get a much slowed down version because you're having them described to you as they go along. And some people absolutely hate it, and I'm utterly unapologetic because I love it. I really enjoyed it. And
I have to say I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it kind of slightly poetic. I'm doing little air quotes there. Oh, you can see me, so
yeah.
You know.
I know that.
Usually it's a podcast.
No, we can see you and your pendulum clock and your fox on the wall behind you. What I was going to say was Frank Herbert was a great fan of poetry in his prose. Famously, if it was an important scene, he'd write a poem about it, and would then dissect that poem and throw it into the prose so that it had that lyrical, rhythmic quality to it. And so
that's when I did the ships that I sent to my editor to say, this is what I want to do now. I sent some pictures that Tom Parker, who did the map and the chapter headers in the book, had done. And then I sent you're meant to do a synopsis.
Oh, wow.
It kind of dripped out of me. And my editor Jenny said, I've never heard anything like it. I was like, phew.
Is that available anywhere? Have you put that up on your website?
No, because it's a spoiler for the entire thing.
Okay.
So it kind of carries the themes right through, because I always know how the only thing I know when I'm writing is how it all ends. So I couldn't let people read it because they'd know what's
Because I know
coming.
when I've spoken to other writers, there's these two huge camps between the plotters, those who plot everything out, and the seat of their pantsers, pantsers. And it sounds like you fall into the plotter camp.
When I wrote King of Assassins, the only thing the Age of Assassins is a murder mystery in fantasy clothes, and then Blood of Assassins is kind of a spy thriller murder mystery, and Assassins again is a murder mystery. And I knew the plot of Age of Assassins because it all came into my head at once in like a big like that, and I wrote it really quickly. And I had a rough idea of what I wanted to do as a plot for Blood of Assassins, but when I sat and wrote King of Assassins, but how the relationship between Gerton and Marilla ended, that was all I knew, and I just sat and wrote a book, and that's how I write everything now. It's kind of honing that, and that's what I'm most comfortable for. Where did that come from? Yeah, but I was saying that they'd written a sentence and thought, oh, that breaks my entire plot, and then they sat and thought about it for an hour and decided, I'm going to delete that. Though it was a lovely idea, I would never do that, because King of Assassins, I wrote a sentence in it and thought that breaks that up before. How can I make it work?
And David Gemmell was exactly the same. His poor wife would hear him shout, "Oh my God!" And she'd say, "What is it?" He says, "He shot him." And she said, "What did he shot him?" She says, "He shot him." And she said, "Well, didn't you plan it?" He said, "No." And he would just carry on, and he was horrified by some of the things that his characters did, but they had such a life of their own that he carried on with that, and he was very much a fan of that. He would create these very, I think, rounded and driven characters, and they would develop this life of their own, sometimes to the detriment of what David thought he wanted to happen. So, okay,
It was very much kind of because it's a first-person book, to call it, this is a bit pretentious, method writing.
right, okay.
You're just in that person's head, and you're seeing through their eyes and writing down how it works for them, which is quite good, especially in book, because I lied to the reader all the way through. He's a very unreliable narrator. Yeah, he's cheating to you and not telling you things. And in the first book, you get a very naive viewpoint because he's very emotionally young, and then that becomes more common. I'm trying to say this without massive spoilers. People who've read it will know. There is a person in the first book who Gerton completely misreads, and it takes him a long time to come.
I'm just listening. So because there's a parallel with another author I've heard of who said exactly the same, that she wrote somebody who was absolutely diabolical, and by the end of the 3-book sequence, everybody fell in love with them.
Yeah.
And so I think it's quite nice that you have characters who are unpredictable.
Yeah, well, and forgiveness is a big theme of what I do a lot. I think we need to be nicer to each other and more willing to say, okay, you made a mess of that, but you've learned from it, and that's good. And let's carry on and look at where we're going, because everybody I've done incredibly stupid things, but
Don't we all?
and we all have.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and yeah, and I think it's important that we say, like, as long as you're on.
Compassion, I think, is probably not a good idea in this this day and age. So, from a purely practical point of view, when is book 2 of Bone Ships out? You say you've almost written book 3. When's book 2 going to be coming out?
Book 2 was slated for September originally, I think, and now I think it's kind of because of all it's already like a version of always missed quite a lot, but there's a few people check the final version. We try and catch all the errors, but there's such big books, it's almost a typo in a
Yeah.
some are always get out. There's one in the first book, and it's an error no one's noticed, but I know it really bugs me.
Can you fix it in the second reprint?
Yeah, probably. I know we've already had the second reprint. So it's a tiny thing that no one will notice. It's only me that knows about it, so I shouldn't.
Now everyone's going to go off there and try and find out what it is. So.
Yeah, and there's no way they can know. It's really weird as an author because there's a thing in King of Assassins that only I know about, and that is absolutely unknowable to the reader. And occasionally I tell people in the secret. It's a weird thing be writing, because quite often what the stuff that bugs you as an author is not at all what other people are
it's a kind of different way of looking at the world, isn't it? You're behind the curtain, as it were, and I kind of feel the view sometimes from behind the curtain as a writer is very different from what the reader experiences. So, but sounds like that's what you see.
Too complicated and fantastic and wonderful people. So what you have to create as an author is something with enough bones on it that other people can hang their experiences on it.
Okay.
And find themselves in it. I think that's what I try and do with people. And it's really, especially with the first reviews in Publishers Weekly, the reviewer didn't like the fact that he's quite comfortable with adults and absolutely lost around people his own age, and for me that's like a formative experience of life, that you have faces for places. There's a place where you're comfortable, which Gerton is, because he's always been around adults, and it was just so good. This review has clearly never been in that place, so that's not resonating with them, which is cool. I'm not particularly bothered by bad reviews, because I
don't think anyone's going to be all the same anyway, are they? So you want to find a reviewer who's in tune with what you like. I certainly don't think you want to be creating someone so bland to appeal to everybody that nobody quite likes him or can kind of work out who he or she is.
I like to sail against.
A bit of conflict. I know you've been asked this question before, but I'd like to ask it again. What was it that made you decide that Gerton was going to have a physical disability with his clubfoot?
That was just from my own life. I have Crohn's disease, so although I look normal because everybody looks like this.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody I know does.
You live in a small goth village outside. I won't say where you live. So, but.
Yeah. I live with my wife and my son. That's the only people I ever see, apart from my nappy as well. So for me, everyone looks like
goth.
Goth beat on the air. Which is clear to my tongue. But yeah, I was much iller. I weighed about 6 stone, and I'm just about 6 foot tall, and I was in constant Crohn's disease attacks your joints. It's not a disease. So my joint damaged. So it's a good excuse. Also,
my doctor told me I had to wear them.
Better than that, I'm not allowed to eat vegetables. It's brilliant.
No.
I'm not allowed to eat vegetables. I'm literally not allowed to eat my greens. It's just
schoolboys all around the country going.
Yeah, when the doctor told me you're going to have to live off things like high energy foods, like sugary things like sweets and things like chicken and steak, you need a lot of protein and things like that. And I was just like, I've won. 10-year-old me is rejoicing in my head. Just going, what? It wasn't a fun experience.
No, I can imagine.
But that Gerton is a manifestation of that. And the other thing about the fight sequences is there's bits where he's like breathing and he's using that to control his fear. But their pain management have gone into the book. So I've used them in the book, and his clubfoot in some ways is a bit cowardly of me, because Byron had a clubfoot and he fought loads of duels, so I'm the Hellespont. But I knew I wanted to write an action book, so I I wanted him to understand pain and to be different and singled out for being different, and that seemed a good way into it that would still allow him to do a lot. Because the other thing that I think is quite important is that to have a disability of any kind, like that. The reality of my life is that I live in quite sort of between tram lines and certain times, and like I'm full of energy, but I've got about 3 hours of this, and then I'm half asleep. So,
well,
I
thank
ration
you
it out.
for giving us some of your precious tram lines.
To do it, I like doing it, and I don't do stuff that I don't like. It's one of my great enough to have got into a position where I'm just doing stuff I love professionally. It's brilliant.
That's fantastic.
And I write for 2 hours a day, and that's about my limit because my joints, my fingers start to really hurt after that. It's between 1,000 and 2,000 words generally, unless I'm being slack, like yesterday when I just wrote chapter 44. And it turned out it wasn't even chapter 44. It should have been chapter 45. That's how much attention I was paying yesterday. But yeah, that's why Girton has a club. And one of the things in the jaw on it is, I mean, he's not very nice when you meet him. He's a proper sad sack. The book's about broken people being fixed, so he has to be broken when you meet him. You can't turn up and be hello. Yeah. I'm Errol Flesh.
Well adjusted.
I'm brilliant. Yeah, and he's not. He's a xenophobe, basically. He's quite unpleasant, terrified of the dissolution of his body through fighting or pain or all these things that he knows are going to happen to him once he gets on that ship. Yeah. And that again is I think running through of suddenly realizing that your body is this fallible machine. Yeah. And that's been put into that book. So it's stuff that's always there, and it must be in the back of my mind, even though I don't really think about it consciously at all. I'm just like, oh, I'm all right.
His fear does come through, okay. when he's going into action, those key scenes. Yeah. You do get the feeling that it's I did that it felt very, very real. That the threat that was out there. So whatever you're doing, it's worked. What you're drawing on and then translating into this man Joran.
And then as we move into the next book as well, we start to play with the idea of how this isn't a spoiler, not really. This can desensitize you, to violence, and it moves. I'm going to actually read from the second book because it's all done, but I decided not to because my editor would have told me off. Didn't she? Yes, she just said don't do that till we tell you to. Okay.
But you can always come back and read us when they give you permission. You always come back and read an extract for us. So.
Yeah, I'll have to. I really like the opening of the second book. There's a big storm, and I love the sea. I absolutely.
Yeah, to give it the respect. So.
To write about it. Yeah, manifestations of it. To write about it. They're kaiju. They're not. We build them as dragons for the book, but they're more like Godzilla in that they don't. You've read it. It's a bit spoilery, but they don't really act as if they know the ship is even there.
They are vast, aren't they?
Yeah, they're vast and uncaring and practically unstoppable. It's just doing its thing. And one thing that I'm surprised no one's picked up on with reviews is that one of the things that obsesses me is the futility of war and how foolish we could be spending our energy on getting together and doing useful things. No. Doesn't change. That's very spoilery if people haven't read it. But it's a book about the journey. It's not a book about where you end up. So I'm worried about saying stuff that.
Yeah.
But if you are one of those people,
sorry. You just spoiled the whole end of the book. So, but it is about the journey. It is about the whole experience, rather about getting it's not a quest in its traditional
Yeah.
perspective, is it? You're not going to rescue the Holy Cup in order to do X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z. So,
No.
so
No, it's a desperate chase across the seas. But what is being saved is the people aboard the ship. Really, that's what it's about.
And there's a personal and we'll have to find out. And there's a personal journey for it. Kind of starts off with the two of them, with Lucky Mears and with Joran, but it kind of feels like by the end of it you've brought a third character in with, and I'm going to say this name wrong, but Gwilliam.
Yeah. You're actually saying it right, aren't you? Because John is saying it right, because I saw the friend Willem written down and thought that's quite a good name, isn't it? And I read it as kind of like a birdie bit at the beginning, but it sounds a bit odd, so that's what I'm going to call my creatures. Can I tell you the story of how they came about?
Please do. It's one of my questions. I'd love to know.
Yeah, this is absolutely, I swear on my heart, exactly what happened. I have a friend called Matt, and he's brilliant, and he's very kind that we go and play badminton. I don't have enough energy to play badminton very. What we actually do, it's still kind of flicking over in my head. And I told him about this world where there were no mammals, and there were these wizards that could. And he was going, "Oh yeah, should we play another point then?" I was going, "Oh, we must." And as we came out, Matt said to me, "I love the I control the wind." And I was going, "That is not what he said, Matt. You were not paying attention." It's wizards that control the wind in a world where it's all birds. But anyway, by the time I got home, I'd had this brilliant these bird wizards that could control the wind. And bless him, has never actually never said to me that was actually my idea. But it was him. He could have mixed up some things, and I just thought, of course, that is the right thing. And it was like
so by him not listening to you, you've actually got a brilliant set of characters, a brilliant race.
Yeah, he may have been listening and just realised it was a fan. That was the best way of just. Think, drop it in. I did put up with you as an author, just talking at concepts that are not quite in place in your head and don't actually make sense to anyone but you. And we'll just go, yeah, that sounds great, RJ. You go with that. So that's how they kind of crystallized when I talked to Tom Parker, the artist, about them, and he was just like, "Can I draw them? Stop you?" So he drew them, and he sent me back these really lovely pictures that we sent to Jenny. As I said, with the came from a myth through me, and then kind of crystallized with Tom doing these sketches of this thing that was half bird, half sketch. Was it talking about?
He's certainly such a strong character for the books.
And I knew what I wanted to do, and it looks. I love it. I want to hug. And there's another one of them that you'll meet eventually.
Oh, now you're really getting just whetting the appetite for the next book.
Yeah, who again, I like writing them, whether I like things, but yeah, and there's a whole. Yeah, I think the second book asks a lot more questions. The second book's got a lot more going on in it because I don't have to set the world up. It's all done. So we're straight into it, and we're going on with finding out more about what's going on in this world.
Brilliant. Oh, it sounds fantastic. I can't wait. I was going to ask you a question about your influences, because you're obviously influenced quite heavily by historical fiction and crime. These themes come up. Do you want to just chat a bit about your kind of the influences and the either literary or kind of historically, that kind of find their way into your books?
Not a huge fantasy reader anymore. I was when I was a lot younger. I used to go down to the library when I had a job I hated and lose myself in fantasy. Every my lunch hour, I'd just sit in the library and read fantasy books. Whatever I had, I'd just read it a lot. And then kind of my tastes of, I wouldn't say change. When I'm writing a thing, it's very difficult to read that thing as well, because it feels, I was trying to describe it that I can't switch off. It's not critical. It's the bit of my head that's going, what would I do with this idea? What would I do with this idea? And it won't let me settle into a fantasy book.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. So I read out of genre. I read a lot of history. And assassin has a lot more in there because I've been reading. That's quite a lot in a pub one day, and he went, "Hang on, 2 swords, one small, one big. The armor's all kind of enamel. They're samurai."
And I read the book and I didn't even see that.
And Gerton and Merrill are in an historical sense that they dress as servants and sneak into the castle to kill somebody, but you can't call something Age of Ninja or use the word ninja because it's such a strong image, and people go black clad, and that's what they are, and they're not. So that all fed into it. It's 2 things that really interested me. And King of Assassins is there's a lot about I'm going to get. It's a long time since I did all the research. That they are in. And then my probably my absolute favourite writer is Patrick O'Brien, who writes the Aubrey Maturin books. Master and Commander was the film it came into, and I love those books. I don't read much more than once, but I've read all of those more than once, and I'm probably going to go through them again. But this is my love letter to Patrick O'Brien. It's had that feel of the sea. What to aim at. I don't think I've touched it, but
I think you've done your take on it, because you've got the Jack and Stephen in your Joran and Mias, haven't you? Really, so it's your take on it, and they're brilliant books. And if you wouldn't mind later, it'd be really helpful if maybe you could pop some of those books up on the YouTube channel either under the comments, or we'll pin them to the top, just so that people who are interested in some of the historical fiction or historical reading, give people some suggestions. So
I think the Genesis, they're doing the entire trilogy. It's such a lie. That's title. It wasn't originally called that. It was originally called The Uncrowned Heir, which makes more sense if you know the plot of the first book. And then it was called All Death's Well Intentioned, all of it kept coming back and going, but it's the title.
It does sound like a crime book.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, it's a fantasy book. It has to sound like a fantasy book. And I was like, okay, yeah. We went through hundreds and hundreds of titles, and eventually they said, about Age of Assassins? To call it that. Whatever, just let me tell people about my book. And I've completely. Oh yeah, but before that, I'd written a science fiction novel, which us against this structure and this space. There's no AI, there's no artificial intelligence in this world. The computers are very good, but impossible. There's lots of alien races and stuff, and they come across this thing, and it turns out to be an artificial intelligence, and they're like, wow, we're actually, they're not, because everyone wants it, and they don't have any weapons, and it on. And 2 editors loved it and then left their jobs. And I was just like,
no.
But I had a really long conversation with an editor called Matilda Imler about that book, and we got onto a shared love of Agatha Christie, and she said, "I'm surprised no one," and that was Age of Assassins, just bam.
Yeah.
Okay.
It comes across very, very
I know
strongly
I
as a
yeah.
mystery crime novel. And
Yeah.
for those people who don't read fantasy but do like their crime, I think this is a good kind of a segue between the two genres. I really, really, really do. So it's yeah.
I think it's
and horses with antlers. So
plus something in many ways in it. Which, yeah, and horses with
oh,
antlers. The other reason I write history because I wanted to write something which was hot. Can't say that to people. It's too silly. And I was like, oh, okay. You're only telling me because once you've forbidden something, I'm going to do it.
Tell RJ not to do something. It's a drag to a horned antlered horse. So,
but Age of Assassins has the property together, and I'll explain how it was done. And that was the thing that appeared in my head.
But I love that. I thought that was really lovely. That kind of the way the whole mystery unfold, and you didn't know which way to look. And I found myself looking at characters twice, thinking, could it be them? And I just I thought that was superb. So, but it really worked for me. But then I don't hold to just reading one genre like you. I tend to like reading different things. So I think there's good, brilliant writing in all genres. So.
You'll see some. I massively cheated earlier because I do not give you enough clues. You can realise afterwards that there's stuff there, but there's no clues. It's just stuff. No, because that's what Agatha Christie does, and Conan Doyle does it as well. That when you come to the solution, you think, "Oh my gosh, of course it was a monkey." But then
there's no clue.
Reading up, there's no chance of getting.
I know her family have always said that. Oh no, that she knew from the beginning. But I've read conflicting evidence that no, she didn't have a clue. Who she just wrote lots of people who could have done it, and then at the end decided which one of them it was. So
I reckon you can't say that. Though. You always got to say, "Oh no, I planned all the way through." It's like if anybody comes up to you and says, "In that book is really clever," and you didn't know that thing existed, you just go, "Yeah, I thought about that."
I'm sure artists do exactly the way. Oh yes, I intended that symbolism of the acorn in the bottom left hand side of the canvas. So.
I mean, to be an author, you're a paid liar. That's what you do. We're here to lie and entertain. Want to do,
and you definitely do entertain. I thank you so much, RJ. It's been an absolute delight hearing from you, hear about your process, and hear about how you've come up with all these brilliant ideas for these brilliant novels. I can't wait to get hold of the new novel when it comes out. Bless you. Well, a good time for us to finish. I was just going to say, if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and please hit the subscribe button. We've got lots of online content for people at home. If you'd like to read more of RJ's books, Bone Ships is on our e-audio platform, and we'll make sure the link is at the bottom of the video. But RJ, would you like to say where else people can get hold of your books?
Yeah, Hive will let you get the book from that they need your help because nobody can go to their shops. And ours, you can buy it on Kindle, I believe. If you're Skin, if you're Uck, then I think they're both on offer. The Bone Ships and the first, that's Age of Assassins, the first Gerton and Merrill book, and then Blood of the Front. Orbit will swear blind it isn't. Well, Orbit incidents, but I tell everyone it's me. And then King of Assassins on the. This has a really weird coincidence on it. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like a cloistered cellar or something.
Oh yeah. I've just put you on full screen, so hopefully everyone can see.
Yeah, you can kind of The covers are done with very little knowledge of the book generally. But actually, the book opens in a place exactly like that. It's really, really weird. But one of the book is who this hooded figure is, because he's not in the books
at all.
he's just a bit, yeah.
I think you should. The poor soul will be feeling awfully left out. So it's been an absolute delight, RJ. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time to come and chat to us at Wiltshire Libraries. We look forward to hear from you. And when all this is over, please come and visit us. We'll do a real life event where people can come and meet you in person.
I'd love to. That'd be fantastic. And I'll bring postcards and stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah. Oh, and one last thing: if you go and if you've left a review of the Bone Ships, I'm giving away some original art by the ship, Thai Child. So if you check out my Twitter, it ends at the end of April.
Brilliant. Well, I definitely recommend that because his artwork is superb. So yeah,
he's lovely.
It's Debut Dreaming, isn't it? DEBUTDRMN.
DEDBRMNG.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you once again, and thanks to everybody here for watching. Yeah, lovely. All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.